again is the Association Simplifier webinar, Retaining Membership with Analytics. We are Bros Group. Please do follow us on Twitter at Bros Group, and we also have a YouTube channel that's /IT Simplifier. And I want to do a little bit of kind of who we are, just as people are getting on the line, and then I'll go ahead and have Joel take over and talk about a lot of the stuff, really, really cool, fun stuff we're doing in analytics right now. So my name, again, Justin. I'm a former board member of Colorado American Marketing Association, currently a marketing co-chair for Symposium 2014. You can also follow me at jcraft80, and also follow me on LinkedIn, crafty80, /crafty80 on LinkedIn. So a little bit about Bros Group. We are a premier IT consulting talent management firm. We've been around about 10 years, and we have a unique intersection. We have a unique intersection of practice areas that enable clients to enhance value and promote nimble technology restructuring. Again, we do managed services, we do consulting, we also do a staffing component of our company, and we really enjoy doing these webinars and showing you guys a lot of the information that we're discovering out in the industry. We have 4 service areas. We have staff augmentation, consulting, managed services, direct placement. The Bros Group solutions that we cover, it's a lot bigger than this, but I wanted to kind of give everybody what we do. It's a SharePoint, cloud, analytics, BI, business continuity, Office 365, project management. We do strategic planning, virtualization, and also mobile solutions. And today we're actually talking about the analytics BI component of that. And just to give you an idea of some of our clients that we work with, just show you this page really quick. And I'll go ahead and introduce Joel. Joel is one of our analytic predictive specialists. He does predictive analytic modeling, statistical modeling, data warehousing, SQL server integration services, SQL server analysis services, data modeling. He can also be found on LinkedIn, /Joel Mankey. And I will go ahead and pass it off to you, Joel, if you want to go ahead and get started.
So one of the things, projects that we like to share with you is regarding membership retention. A lot of the companies and clients we work with collect a lot of data, but they don't know how to implement and use that data to make better informed decision making. So this is actual data from a real company we worked with. It's not a real estate organization, but a lot of the things that apply to this particular membership group apply to real estate organizations in general. So kind of a brief overview of the project was to look at the different characteristics of members that do leave to identify key problem areas and be able to predict if a member will leave and be able to target them and hopefully keep them with the organization, and also to understand the implications within a business context. And the outcomes of this project, where we can identify distinct groups of people who do exit the organization, points of membership erosion are clearly identifiable. Exits can be predicted, and there's significant business implications. Just in general, membership organizations are kind of unique because there's 2 types of perspectives. You have the membership organization itself and the actual industry they're operating within. Both are important for the business context. Some of the key drivers are the core membership base as well as the health of the underlying industry. as I said, this isn't the real estate industry, but a lot of the things that apply to the real estate industry apply to this actual company. Some of the drivers of that particular industry were population growth, the larger economic prosperity if people are perceiving themselves and the economy doing well, and being able to use those funds to live their life and do certain things like purchase a home, for instance. Within that industry, there is a lot of rapidly changing technologies, social media, big data, all those kind of key buzzwords, but were impacting this organization, but they were having a little bit of trouble getting a clear grasp of their own technology and their own data that they already have. So we were trying to use what they already had and find information that could be usable for them. There's also some larger national trends going on, particularly the baby boomers were of interest. A lot of the people who were part of their organization and who used their members' services were baby boomers, so just being able to understand that that is going to be an impact of impact to them in the future. There's a lot of consolidation within the industry. It used to be a couple of very small shops, 1-2 person operation, but they were combining different practices between their larger network to deliver more services. So that was something that was affecting these businesses, as well as the certification within this industry is prized, and it kind of gives a higher level of designation for the members of the group. So just in general, the process that we employed was first starting with a larger business understanding. All of this data lives within a larger context. So, you don't want to take one little hint here without understanding what the actual trends within the industry are and the expertise of the people who are actually working for those organizations. From there, we moved to just getting a grasp of the data in general. There's a lot out there and a lot of really valuable stuff that's just kind of buried within these different databases and sources from their vendors, and kind of just knowing what the baseline is to start from there. A lot of the work actually goes into the data preparation. So this ends up being taking those bits and pieces and turning it into metrics, or just understanding the distribution of this type of data within the context of all the larger all the rest of the data. From there, we moved into kind of a modeling stage where we take that data and do some models, some tests, and see if there is any type of actionable correlations between A and B and C and D, and we'll get into some of those in just a minute, and actually evaluating the model and then acting on it. And that's kind of part of the process that a lot of people end up missing, that we see, is that they have this data, they have this information, great reports and whatever, but they don't end up acting on it. And this can almost be simplified into measure, run an analytic process, act, and then repeat, where you continually measure and look at the impacts of those measurements and those actions in the modeling process within your context of your business organization. One of the things that they were very interested in is, when do people leave? So this is called a survival analysis, and it basically, you can think about it as, we have all these members, and at what period in time do they leave? So if we took people who joined in April, May, June, and July, and just put them all at almost day 10 and plotted out when they left through time, this can show exactly when those people, in terms of time with the organization, end up leaving. So for this particular group, the most interesting chart is the one on the top right, where you can see this high spike in people in terms of the months they're with the company, and see that they're leaving. The big majority of people are leaving within the first 48 months, 50 months, so within the first 4 years, and even higher, especially in the first couple of years, which this company knew that getting new members in was a big problem, but they didn't know exactly how important these first few months really were. So we also wanted to look at these different types of how these different membership groups, they had 7 different primary levels. In the top left, you can see pretty clearly that these groups behaved differently. The chart on the right, which says the density function by membership type, shows when and how these different groups behave. Particularly, again, you can see that these type 1, type 2, type 3 even a little bit were the main drivers for this first early spike within these first few years. And this is interesting because if you can't really read it here very well, but the chart on the left that has the different, it's the average months they're with the group, actually shows the wide difference between these different membership categories. And for the business implications, you can either try and make the better groups better or the worse groups better. And there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for these type 1 and type 2 memberships. So the business actually ended up implementing some marketing programs that were specifically directed at these different groups. They were also interested in age. These groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, would be similar to 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, and 60 plus. But again, you can start to see that this group 5 ended up having a very high probability of leaving in the top right chart. So that group could either be targeted, or in this case, group 5 would be the older people who joined or who were older at that time. So most likely that was a natural exit compared to them being kind of not satisfied with the actual value delivered. Another thing they wanted to look at was the education level of their members and how that affected people leaving in terms of the time of their exit. And one thing to note here is that the people with more education tend to stick around longer. Again, in terms of targeting different people, they could target the people that had higher levels of education, or at least put themselves in front of people who would be master's students or PhD type candidates. Another kind of interesting thing they wanted to look at was pre-financial crash, post-financial crash behavior. And again, here you can obviously see they behave very differently. The pre-crash tended to be a lot higher in terms of their exits. The people who stuck around after the financial crash were not nearly as highly likely to leave. So that with this data reference to all the other stuff, this almost shows that there was a more stable organization. So the people who would come in before the financial crash, where it was almost like they saw the easy money promise, but after the financial crash, the people weren't leaving quite as much. It was the people who were more kind of interested in the long haul. And kind of with that understanding, we wanted to look at different groups. How do this large group of people who left, how can we look at them in terms of different segments within their organization? 3 areas we looked at are their current age, the age they joined, and the length of time they're with the organization. And pretty clear groups emerged based on these factors, and they're not perfect measures, but they're related to kind of the stages of people's life in terms of, getting married, new job, as well as kind of their stage in their career. So they're related to those factors, and they can pretty clearly see differences between the groups. Again, here we can kind of see that people who joined young and were still younger left a lot earlier, and then you can also see the people who were older, were towards the end of their career and just didn't stick around as long. But again, this kind of leads to the fact that there's obviously something wrong with the red group 2, who there's definitely room for further investigation in terms of their marketing program. From there, we looked at a bunch of different predictive models. In terms of putting that up on a PowerPoint, it looks like a bunch of math, so that's not very interesting. We used a variety of techniques, which if you have questions about, we can definitely answer, but each model that was stable was actually pretty accurate in terms of predicting the event of someone leaving. Again, this either could be for a natural cause of them leaving where they're just retiring, but it can also be the fact that they have these different attributes that are leading them to be likely to leave. And then again, these people can be targeted before they actually leave with different marketing initiatives and adjusting the value proposition of them in there, hopefully highlighting the value of the organization to their members. So kind of some key insights that came from this were targeting members under 4 years with the organization. Specifically, the first 2 years was very important. Higher membership categories ended up sticking around longer, so that would be suggestive of cross-selling and upselling opportunities, that there can be pricing implications, changing the values of this type of membership to this type of membership, things like that. The organization ended up probably being a little bit leaner, more dedicated core membership base. That obviously has some financial impacts where people are going to be sticking around longer. The variability in revenue streams isn't quite as great from your membership base. And also that finally, high-risk members can be identified before they leave and targeted. So the implications here were to focus on their younger, more educated base. First of all, looking at the problems within those groups, as well as targeting people who were at high risk of leaving, and that was what the business ended up pursuing. And obviously these things have effects on kind of your standard MBA value chain, where if you're trying to grow your organization, do you focus on how do you deal with retaining people? How do you deal with growing in a competitive market? Marketing's pretty obvious too, where different groups can be targeted. Your operations of how you actually deal with conferences and getting a hold and connecting with these people. Finance, kind of similar to what I was talking about earlier, where you can be a little bit more assured in your assumptions for financial planning. And finally, technology, where these things obviously come from technology and can be implemented and integrated into your technology solutions. You can build these types of models directly into your database, where a person that with high odds of leaving can be targeted automatically and get put on this email list. And also technology in terms of diving deeper into these things. This wasn't high level, but I mean there's definitely opportunities for them to dive deeper into different things. So in terms of the next steps that we pursued was diving deeper into short-term members, specifically those under 4 years, under 2 years groups. We focused on some of the more apparent variables, but there's so many different designations within their current member database where you can do a lot more fine-grained analysis of the associations between those variables. And then we also switched over to an analysis of the active members rather than just focusing solely on the people who left, to also look at what groups of people exist within the active members, who's seeing a lot of value, who's very satisfied. And this involved tying different sources of data, so data from their member surveys, as well as all the different databases they had within their business. Additionally, we dove into some geographic analysis where by membership chapter you could see who was the, which chapters themselves were performing best, which chapters were performing worst. That way you could identify some of the best practices, worst practices, and spread the knowledge of what is and is not working. Additionally, some of the things we're working on with them is more business intelligence, more data warehousing type projects where we're pulling these different databases into kind of one solid cohesive unit where when bringing those sources of information together ends up being more powerful than them individually. This isn't necessarily an operational aspect, it's more for an analysis over time period. And I think that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Joel. If anyone has any questions, I kind of have a couple I'd like to throw at you, Joel. What kind of systems are we integrating at this particular membership association that kind of would lead to this information being gathered? So are they AMS systems? What kind of systems are they? I didn't hear you get into that.
At this time, it's primarily the AMS system, as well as web analytics, Google Analytics type information, and a lot of surveys.
Okay, does anyone else have any further questions? We can also answer any of these questions individually as well. If anyone has anything they want to email to us, you can email any questions to me or Joel Mankey too, and his email is gmenke@brossgroup.com. And again, I will have some of this going out as well. I'll get into that in the next couple slides. But I think the big key here with a lot of this information is taking associations, being that I was a board member for an association for a long time, this information can really be utilized to advance your membership base and to really understand what you're up against using correlated technology and what you're up against as far as your competitors, your everything, and how you can predict when you're going to need to do something about it. So trying to get ahead of the game rather than being a reactive association is really a major key to really advancing your mission and what you're trying to do. And I think another key too that a lot of associations have been talking to associations, really to bring the technology to the forefront of what your strategy is instead of leaving it kind of as a backroom thing. They really need to be in the strategic conversation. That way these analytic models can actually be used and benefited by you. So again, does anyone else have any other questions? I don't see any other questions right now. I'll leave it for a second if anyone has anything. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. Kind of increasing the value of today's webinar experience. Bross Group does this technology and does this type of integration and does this type of predictive analysis. We can definitely if you even just want to entertain a conversation with us and talk about how you can maybe work on taken the next step to get to this point where you can analyze this data. Because the key is to have the data, to have it available, and then to be able to use it. And that's what we're trying to do, is give the strategic vision to how to use this type of data in order to increase your membership base. So we'd love to talk to you guys. There's actually a blog we're going to have available to have today's presentation. Probably give me a couple of days. I actually have to figure out a way to get back to Denver in order to do some of this stuff. But brossgroup.com/blog. If you go to our events page from there, there's going to be an area where we'll have, or the video area, where we'll have all the videos from our past webinars too. Please do check out our schedule for upcoming Bross Group webinars. We probably have a cloud solution one coming up again in the next month or so. I don't have an exact date on that, but check your inbox. We'll probably send some stuff out to you guys if you dropped it into that. And then please do contact us. We'd love to hear from you. I know there's a lot of different programs that we can offer, and it can go from anything from, I have security on this slide, but it can go from anything from security to predictive analytic models to how to build a cloud roadmap and how to integrate your technology into your actual mission and what you're trying to do as an association. So we are excited about, we work with a lot of associations. It's our main client base. It's what we love doing, and we love seeing associations really benefit from us. I also do have, I should mention this too, I do have some case studies if anyone wants case studies specifically around, I think I have 3 or 4 of our association-specific case studies available, and we actually have a predictive model case study that actually Joel put together for us that is available on the website under the association area on the website. So please do contact us, and unless you have anything else, Joel, or I don't see any other questions, that's all we have for today, and we want to thank you for coming on, and we look forward to having you at future webinars. Thanks.